Well, as families gather across the country for Thanksgiving, it's worth noting that the holiday season is not always full of cheer for everyone. Between those online comparisons, we all do that, and even family time overload, it's important to take care of your mental health during the holidays. And here to help us through all of that is Dr. Joshua Coleman, a clinical psychologist and author. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about depression. It's hard to believe that you would feel depressed with all this holiday cheer around, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
During the holiday season, what does that often look like?
Well, people are often vulnerable to seasonal affective disorder during the winter because of the changing of the light. But also if you're alone or you're estranged from your child or your parents, or you don't have close friends, you can really feel isolated with all the people who are supposedly having a great time, and you're seeing the commercials and the Hallmark movies and the TV shows. So it's really easy to compare yourself and feel like, well, that's not my life. What's wrong with me?
Sure.
So it invites a kind of a feeling of shame or defectiveness or social isolation that can really create a lot of depression.
Yeah, it's important to note, remind our viewers, when you're looking on your phone, though, that you're always seeing somebody's highlight reel.
Exactly.
You're not seeing all the stuff behind the scenes.
That's
so just
right.
remind yourself of that.
That's right.
But, being around family can stir up a lot of emotions. How can people navigate maybe steering clear of an argument or a difficult conversation with certain family members over the holidays? It can be tricky.
Oh, it's really tricky, yeah. I mean, I always recommend if you've got a family member that you have conflict with or is politically different than you, which these days is really common, it's a common source of estrangement and conflict, to try to, ahead of time, talk to that person and say, look, we're not going to agree about politics, you love Trump or you love whomever, let's just not go there. For example, I've got a brother who's a major conspiracy theorist, and I'm not outing him because he's a self-confessed conspiracy theorist.
Sure.
So we just have this agreement that instead of fighting all the time like we used to, that if we start to go there, one of us says, okay, we're going to not go there and just let's abandon ship because we want to preserve the relationship.
Yeah.
So that's really important. Tracking how you're communicating is really important, particularly if there's children around. You want to be a good role model for your children. You don't want to lose it in front of your children. I think those things are hugely important. Really paying attention to how you react, I think, is really key.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting you said setting up boundaries even before you sit down and have a conversation, after you hug and maybe just, cheers and sort of laugh about it. Let's not go there this year.
Right.
A lot of folks are traveling today, and I know when you're traveling, you're sitting maybe in the airport or you're driving and you're starting to get those little anxieties start to build up. Oh my goodness, what's my mom gonna say? What's my dad gonna say? Oh gosh, I gotta see my aunt and she always says something kind of not very kind.
Right.
What should you be telling yourself? How can you sort of start preparing yourself in a way that doesn't cause anxiety?
Yeah, well, have an exit plan. Tell yourself, if this starts to go south, I'm going to leave, or I'm just going to gently tell people that this isn't productive. Maybe be clear about what your boundaries are. Be willing to leave. If it starts to go really south, tell yourself that this isn't productive. I want to preserve the relationship, so I'm going to leave before it gets destroyed, because it can get destroyed. These relationships can become estranged around these hot button issues that can happen in the holidays.
Sure. And then any other advice for, say, navigating those difficult conversations, again, if you're around the dinner table, or just those emotions that maybe just come up from past experiences? Yeah.
Well, before you go there, know what your triggers are. So know that if your sibling or your parent or your kid is going to be really guilt-tripping or critical or shaming, think about how you want to respond. Think about the person that you want to be. Conversations in the way that they begin. So the way that we respond can really predict how the conversation is going to go. So really keeping that in mind and knowing what your triggers are is hugely important.
Knowing yourself.
Knowing yourself, exactly.
Dr. Coleman, thank you so much.
Happy
holidays.
Happy
thank
holidays
you so much
to
for
you.
being here.
Yeah, thank you.